Hey, if you're returning back, thank you for coming. I appreciate the support. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Tiffany. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So in today's video, I am going to be talking about something that I haven't discussed in a while. And to be quite honest, I didn't think that I would get the views or the feedback that I got, but it is when I published my first book. Y'all, like I said, I did not expect to get as many views as I did, but it made me want to go ahead and do a follow-up video because I have been getting so many questions with people asking me about the process, who helped me, and all of those things. So what I wanted to do was to give you a few tips of advice on how to get started with your own book. So let's get into it. And if you do see me looking down, it is because I have my journal here, right? Being a writer, you gotta have a journal. So 5 tips to get you started with writing your book. Number 1, make the decision to write. Sometimes we can get it in our heads like, oh, I don't know when I should start or what I should write about. And don't get me wrong, those things are very important, but just getting in your head that, okay, I'm going to write. I want to write a book. I want to write this book. Just making the decision to go ahead and write. That's the first step. Number 2, choose what kind of genre you want to write. So is the book you write going to be for children? Is the book you're going to write going to be for young adults? Is the book you're going to write going to be for adolescents? Is it going to be for older adults? What are you going to write about? What is your audience going to be? That is going to help you determine how many pages you should have. If it's a children's book, or if you're going to have a chapter book, what is your book going to be about? Is your book going to be fiction? Is it going to tell a story? Is it going to be a narrative? Or are you going to have a nonfiction book? Is your book going to be a memoir? Is your book going to be a biography? Is it going to be an autobiography? Is it going to be something that shares or tells facts? Things like that will help you determine what you need to write about and how you want to go ahead and go about writing your book. Figuring out what kind of book are you going to write? Who is your audience? Number 3, decide what your book will be about. Now, there are so many books. If you are a reader like me, or even if you're not a reader, you know that there are so many books out there. And some of these books may or may not have the same storyline. Some of these books may have similarities, but there is no book that is exactly the same. They may have the same setting. They may have the same, just anything really in general. There may be things that may be similar, but that there is going to be a difference. So do not think, oh, well, this book has been written already, or I've seen something similar to this. No, write your book, write your story, because nobody is going to write the way that you're going to write. Nobody is going to have the exact perspective that you have, because we all have our own experiences in life. We all have our own trials and the things that we go through. We all have our things that just made us happy, just experiences in life in general that help shape our points of view, that help shape our perspective. So please write that book, because somebody out there is waiting on you to release what it is that has been placed on your heart to release. And you know, nobody, I know with me personally, I didn't write to, make a whole lot of money. That wasn't the reason for why I wrote The Root Remains. I wrote the root I wrote the root remains because I wanted to be able to, one, share my experiences in working with children, and two, to bring about awareness and knowing that everything that children do, that there is a reason for that. That's what I firmly believe, in that the things that we say to our children, the things that we do to our children, the things that we don't say and the things that we don't do, and the things that they see and don't see, everything affects them, whether it's in a positive way or whether it's in a negative way. And that all of those things are seeds that we plant in our children. And eventually, depending on how we nurture those seeds, that is what is going to eventually yield fruit. So that's why I wrote The Root Remains. Why is it that you want to write what you want to write? How do you think other people will be impacted by what you write? Because it's not about us. Like, that's something that I had to realize. Like, there has to be a purpose behind it. And believe me when I tell you, somebody will read what you have to offer. There's an audience for everybody, and you really have to figure out what it is you want to write and why it is that you want to write, because it's much bigger than yourself. Number 4, choose how you're going to write. So I know different strokes for different folks. Some people free write, which is fine. Some people like to write outlines, which is fine. Some people use bullet points, which is fine. Some people like to use numbers. It is okay, and you don't have to write the same way that somebody else has written. You don't have to plan or strategize the same way that somebody else has, because ultimately you have to do what works best for you. Me personally, what I did was I did outlines. So what I did was I have if I remember correctly, I have a prologue and I have the epilogue. So I have a introduction, and then I also have a conclusion to my book. And so I broke that down: introduction, conclusion, and then in between that, the meat of that is the different stories and the different experience that I have for each person that I wrote about. That's how I wrote my book, because it's not just a flat out story. It tells several different stories from several different perspectives. So that's how I did mine. If you feel comfortable, feel free to just free write. Do it that way. If you feel that you need to outline, like for an example, if you have a book that is going to be for young adults, or if you have a book that is going to be a chapter book, you may want to go ahead and break down chapter by chapter and writing down what is going to be the main thing that happens here, what's going to be the main event that happens there. There's no right or wrong way to write. Just make sure that you do it in a way that's not difficult for you and that it will be less stressful for you, because you don't want to be writing a book. You don't want it to be stressful for you. Will there be ups and downs? Yes. Will there be times where you will be frustrated? Yes. So what you want to do is to try to minimize those frustrations and those difficulties to being as little as possible. Number 5, last but not least, follow through. I cannot tell you how many times where I have said, and I'm being transparent, where I've said, I'm going to start this, and I started, but I didn't necessarily continue through and follow through with it. That has been a struggle for mine in the past, and to be honest, that's what it was like with this book that I wrote. I actually started it off a year prior to it being released. It was actually, I want to say a year or two. And it was a year or two because what it was is that I combined two different books into one that I had started writing, and I just joined those pieces together, and that's how I came up with The Root Remains. And of course, I added extra things here and there. So that's why it took me a while. But if you have a certain deadline, make sure that you plan accordingly. Plan it where you know that you'll be able to set time aside to be intentional with writing your book. If you want to have it released in 3 months, make sure you plan out for that. If you want to have it released in 6 months, make sure you plan out for that. And that doesn't mean that it'll take you that long. Everybody's journey is different. I have a friend to where she actually wrote a book within a matter of days. And so it may be that way for you. It may be weeks for you. It may be months for you. And it may be a year or possibly years for you. But the thing is I don't want you to focus on comparing. You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy. So I don't want you to feel or seem like it has to be by a certain time because of what this person did. No. Make sure you do it because it's something that you want to do, and it's something that is attainable for you. Don't make unrealistic expectations for yourself, because all you're going to do is frustrate yourself. And again, like I said previously, that's not what you need. Make sure you start. Make sure you continue, follow through, and make sure you have your finished product, because the finished product is the reason why you're starting in the first place, to publish a book. And you can't publish a book if you don't start it, if you don't go through the process. In writing itself, I'm going to be honest, that was the longest process for me. If you've written a book, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know in the comment section what writing a book was like for you. And if you haven't written a book yet, let me know what your book, if you were to write a book, the book that you're wanting to write, what will it be about? I would so love to hear about it, because all of our journeys are important and all of our journeys matter. So again, don't be focused on what this person did or what that person did. Don't even be focused on what I did. Make sure you are doing this the way that you need to do it. So the 5 points again: making sure you're going to write, making the decision that, okay, I'm going to write. 2, choosing your genre. Are you going to be writing to an audience that is full of children? Is your audience going to be adults, younger adults? What is your audience? Who is your audience going to be? 3, deciding what your book will be about. What are you going to write about? Are you going to write about personal things? Are you going to write about hair? Are you going to write about your life experiences? Are you going to be telling a story about someone else? Is your character going to be made up? What are you going to write about? There are so many factors to take into place. 4, choosing how you're going to write. What is your writing style going to be like? Are you going to free write? Are you going to outline? Are you going to just put bits and pieces together and figure it out that way? Last but not least, following through. There are so many other tips that I can give you, but I just wanted to give these few for you so that way it won't be overwhelming for you. And that way this can be something to get your gears turning, to figure out, okay, you know you want to write a book. Now, how are you going to write a book? What is your book going to be about? Because you can do it. And again, there is a book for everybody. There's an audience for everyone. So don't think that it's already been done. It may have already been done, but it has not been done by you. And it'll only get done a certain way if it is done by you. So if it's been on your heart, if you've been working on your book, get that book done. Believe me when I say it is so important. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I truly hope that everything I said was beneficial to you. Until next time, see ya.